Hey guys, the WalterFootball.com After Dark Show for November 21st, 2024. We're going to be doing our Week 12 Fantasy Football Rundown here. Before we intro our lovely co-host tonight, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. As you can see, Kenny is wearing a money laundering shirt. I am wearing Ken Griffin Lied, hashtag Ken Griffin Lied. You might be wondering, wow, you're wearing the same shirt 2 days in a row. Well, that's how we do when you have two kids under three. So you have all these shirts here, 25% off. It was 20% off. The merch store in the description. So yeah, we can get 25% off here, which is pretty sweet. I don't know if you saw this, Kenny. We have make garbage great again. Obviously Biden referred to half the country as garbage. So now you can make garbage great again. The picture there, I asked Grok to make a Muppet that was half Oscar the Grouch and half Donald Trump, and that's what it gave me. So
pretty good.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. I liked it. Also, we have this other shirt, which they deleted, by the way. I'm trying to put it back. Squirrel Lives Matter. So we have that. I also resubmitted the apron. The Butker was right apron. I actually put an upright on it. So maybe they won't ban it this time. So hopefully those stay on. But anyway, yeah, you guys can get this merch 25% off once again. It's a pretty sweet deal. Or you can go to Amazon, get my books, Jerks of the College Years, or How the 2020 MVP Was Stolen, Jerks of the College Years. The most recent one, I make fun of people I see at Penn State or saw at Penn State during my 6 years there. Also, please consider super chats, super stickers. That's the best way to support the show. We had 3 great ones yesterday. Jesse Cintron, John Sanders, Slew more recently. And I can't remember the name of someone. It was someone's wife too. They said it was like, "Hey, this is someone's wife," like supporting the show here. So that was great. So just really appreciate you guys supporting the show, and that is the best way. So we're joined by Kenny. The cap is fake. Kenny is back from his 2-week hiatus. Kenny, how's it going?
First of all, you called me a lovely co-host. I mean, that's the greatest thing right there. Yes, I've been gallivanting around the globe. Was out of town for work purposes. For hashtag free the apron. Yes. I am back with a vengeance. What I told you yesterday. I'm going to be back with a vengeance. I'm ready. And the world. I just gotta say, since I've been on, the world has changed. I feel let's say I feel unburdened.
by what has been.
I feel unburdened by what has been. I feel we can move forward, unburdened for what has been. It has been a great 2 weeks.
That's great. John, I thought you were in a 2-week bender after Trump won. Yeah, you were. The last time you were on was election night. You popped in for a little bit. We had a bunch of people on, and then we did our week 10 picks video. And it was a 4.5-hour episode for me. And as soon as Evan was on by himself, I'm like, Evan, can you talk for a minute? I have to go to the bathroom. I've been sitting here for 3 hours.
So good.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's we can maybe get into this later. We can start the fantasy stuff. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them. We'll answer all of them, but obviously super chats get the priority. So, and in the meantime, we'll go through all the games from week 11, starting Thursday night. Eagles 26, Redskins 18. The Eagles are down at halftime, and I actually thought about live betting the Eagles. The Eagles are like plus 2.5 at halftime. But Jalen Hurts looked like he might have suffered a concussion on the final play right before halftime. So I wasn't sure. That's the only reason I didn't bet it. But Saquon Barkley went nuts in the second half. It was kind of like we had over 92.5 rushing yards for him for our prop. And it was kind of like it was getting a little dicey there toward the end. But then he broke off 2 long runs at the end of the game to seal the deal. So that was great. Devontae Smith didn't do much, and I'm bringing up his name because he missed practice today. So if you have him, just make sure you keep that in mind. For the Redskins, Jaden Daniels doesn't look quite right. I think he's still dealing with that rib injury, but he has a mini bye, so I think that he should be closer to 100% this week. And then Austin Eckler just got a bunch of dump offs. Zach Ertz, solid game. He caught the touchdown at the end. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think at this point there's not like a whole lot of lessons to learn or revelations from this. The Eagles, when you own the Eagles, you're starting them, right? Like you can't, you're kind of stuck with them. Excuse my
What is that?
This logo, he's asked about the logo. This is the Send Network, which is it's a long story. You can Google Send Network. It's an organization that helps fund new churches around the country.
Okay.
Because anyway, so they gave me this free hat, and it was free. Unlike this shirt I had to buy from some jerk.
Well, hopefully it's 20% off.
Anyway, I totally lost train of thought. What was I saying?
If you have the Eagles, you're going to start them.
Yeah. Anyone you own this team, you're starting at this point. I think that we have watched the evolution of this offense from like the 2022 version of this team to 2024, or the early 2023 version was, throw the ball all over the yard type of team. This is not that team anymore. This is very much the 2021 version of this team, where they just run the ball and they run the set of the pass. It's old school. It's 1984 again, and I think that basically means that like the ancillary pieces of this offense are going to be useless. So Dallas Goedert is kind of useless, because he's not going to get a lot of targets. There's no third receiver that's going to be useful in this offense. There's not going to be a second running back that's useful. So it's pretty much it's Hurts, it's Barkley, it's Smith, it's Brown, which is fine if you own those guys. But usually when an offense is scoring this many points, you want to kind of, you want to use the ancillary pieces if you can and flex spots. And this team is just none of those flex pieces are going to be helpful to you. Maybe that's obvious at this point. I'm not sure that the Eagles are a legitimate Super Bowl contender as currently constructed, but I will tell you this: the defense is playing fantastic. Remember, the defense was terrible the first couple games of the year, and the defense has evolved to being particularly the back seven, the linebackers, and the secondary. Quinyon Mitchell, rookie cornerback, has quietly put together an all-pro type season. And so I think this team, if this defense continues to improve, I think that changes their prospects going into the playoffs pretty significantly. And so I look forward to that. On the Redskins side, it's a bummer that Jaden Daniels was not healthy, because that would have been a much more entertaining game. I still think he's going to be fantastic. He's probably the best quarterback in the NFC East, certainly one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. So, yeah, that team. But at the end of the day, like, do you trust anyone on that offense? Like, and if he's not healthy, I'm not sure I want anyone on that offense in my lineup at this point.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that off the mini bye he's going to be healthier. But we'll see. I do like Washington a lot against Dallas this week. Of course, anyone against Dallas, you'd probably like at this point. I'll get to them at the end. PPR, keep in mind this is PPR, Kenny. Jin Daniels or Geno Smith. So any batted passes that go back, that is 1 point.
I think I would still take Daniels versus Dallas.
Yes, me too. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, Arizona's defense has been better than expected. Also, Geno Smith might be playing in the rain. I saw it's 75% chance of rain in Seattle on Sunday. And Geno Smith, despite being Seattle's quarterback, has not done well in the rain. So with Jane Daniels having 9 days of rest, 9 weeks would be great. 9 days of rest. I think that he is, like I said, I think closer to 100%. Cinder doesn't sound like Eagle-friendly Kenny there. I think I'm more Eagle-friendly at this point because I have a bet on them at 18-1 to have the best record in the NFL.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, I think about it. I mean, they're 8-2, but there's been a lot of ugliness along the way. They've not had any ugly games, like where they played bad all game. They've just had ugly moments. The Cleveland game stands out in that way. The Falcons game that they lost at the end, they had two golden opportunities to win that game. Barkley drops a pass. I mean, just a weird. The Saints. Well, I take it back. The Saints game was ugly.
The Tampa game was very ugly.
Oh, that's right.
Everyone is out for that game, so I don't even count it.
So that was an ugly game. The Saints game was ugly for long stretches, but they were able to pull that out. I mean, it's kind of been they've not been great, but I think they've gotten better. Particularly, the coaching has gotten better. Nick Sirianni made some really poor choices over the last weeks, and so I think he's made some better choices. He's still aggressive. He's going to be aggressive style, and I think that's fine. I think he goes for two too often. bro, sometimes just take the point and move on. But it is what it is. I like it when it works. Obviously, everyone does. And if you're unless you're a Jake Elliott fantasy owner, in that case. But I think the defense is the thing that has really turned them around, particularly the back seven. And if they continue to get better, they look like a different team. I mean, Baker Mayfield looked like Joe Montana going against them up and down the field against them, a couple months back or whatever it was back in September. And I think back that defense is totally different today. If they play Baker Mayfield today, I think they would shut him down. So
yeah, that defense is ranked number 1 in EPA at the moment. Not a surprise, not really a surprise. I said back when that happened in week 4, I'm like, as bad as it looks now, they have so much talent and they have Vic Fangio. It feels like they could get it together at some point, and they did, to their credit. Like their defense is a behemoth. The only thing I worry about is Sirianni's decision making, because I like the coordinators, like the talent they have. You said this is not, you don't think it's a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I think they are. I think whoever gets the home game in the NFC Championship between them and the Lions, I think will go to the Super Bowl.
And that's going to be a huge. I mean, that's going to be a massive the determinator, right? I mean, the bye week and the week off and the home field advantage obviously makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let's get to next game. Packers 20, Bears 19. Far cry from what we saw from the Bears in Week 10, where they lost to the Patriots. They lost to the Patriots 19-3. That was horrendous. But the Bears came back. They fired their coordinator, and suddenly they looked better. So surprise, surprise. That coordinator was so bad. But Caleb Williams ran a lot, 9 scrambles, 70 rushing yards. Swift ran well. Roschon Johnson had 10 carries. And now Swift is a little banged up, so Roschon Johnson may end up getting the start this week if Swift is out. As far as the receivers are concerned, Odunze had the best game. DJ Moore was pretty close behind. I like those guys as buy lows whenever they lost to the Patriots. I thought that, with the new coordinator, they have a lot of talent, so I thought that they could bounce back. Packers won on the block field goal, but it felt like they had more chances to expand their lead, and they just didn't do it. Like they had an interception in the red zone. They had some other gap there as well. Josh Jacobs looked solid. Christian Watson had some deep completions, which deep receptions, and like we're kind of like waiting on that. Like Watson didn't have his his spike week, and he just did. And so I guess anyone who had him in best ball, I guess they finally benefited after nothing.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think Watson is always live to have games like this. He just has this game breaking potential. And again, he has a very low floor, but he's just someone I like as well. So any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think these 2 games give us exactly what we've thought of these teams over the last few weeks. With the Packers, it's kind of like you don't know which. Like, I don't want any of these guys in my starting lineup because I don't know which of these guys is valuable to me at any given week. The ball moves around so many different ways. That's to Jordan Love's credit. And then Jordan Love had some great moments in this game, and then he has some terrible moments. I mean, he's made some passes. You're just like, wow, that's an incredible pass. And then he makes some throws. You're just like, dude, what are you looking at? And I mean, I guess I feel the same way about Jalen Hurts. You certainly feel the same way about Anthony Richardson. I mean, there's lots of guys right now that you would say, what the heck is going on? And he's the best of those guys in that crew that you're like, what the heck is going on with you? He's the best of the bunch. And so, obviously you like him. Caleb Williams, is he the 4th best quarterback in this draft class right now? I mean, he's not been good. And there are moments where you see the talent where you go, okay, that I get why that's why he was the number 1 pick. That's why people said he was Patrick Mahomes like. Again, I don't watch college football, so I don't know. I just hear what people say. But based on what people said, I'm watching this guy and going, if I was a Bears fan, I'm not excited about this guy. I still am not confident this guy's going to be anything special. Like he feels more Jameis Winston to me than he does Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. And that's obviously not a good thing. I'm not talking about fried chicken stealing Jameis Winston. I'm talking about 5 interception, throw in a triple coverage, Jameis Winston. So yeah, man, if I'm a Bears fan, I would be nervous. And honestly, like, I'm not sure. I mean, I've got Keenan Allen on one team. I've got DJ Moore on another. Keenan Allen, I'm not even sure if he can be in my starting lineup. I'm not sure if I trust him. Like,
I'm surprised you're still rostering him, honestly.
Although my receivers in that league, it's in our league. My receivers are pretty fit. So he's my third. I've got him and Ricky Pearsall as my third receiver, back and forth between those two guys. Not exactly the strongest receiver core ever, but I got DJ Moore in another league. It's like, well, I'm still starting DJ Moore in a flex spot most weeks, which is like, there's a lot of goose eggs in there. It sucks. And so, yeah, the one thing you mentioned, Roschon Johnson, as of Monday, I don't know what the percentage is now, but as of Monday, he was only 8% owned in Yahoo leagues. And like, I think he was like 21% owned in ESPN leagues. Like, that's really low ownership for him.
Yeah.
I'm sure that probably went up after this week. I'm imagining after waiver wires ran. But if he's available in your league, like, he's someone you should consider. He's the prototypical guy that I want to target this time of year in my waiver wire, by the way. Like, the backup running back who has a chance to, like, if things break right, could be a league winner. Like, I don't think Roschon Johnson's a good player. I don't think he's an amazing talent. He's fine. But if he's the primary ball carrier, well, like, they clearly trust him, particularly in the red zone. He had four red zone carries, or 4 carries inside the 10. And so, like, that's pretty significant, obviously. So, yeah, if he's available in your league, I think he's the kind of guy you want on your bench.
I had to check this because I thought it might be the case, and it is. Roschon Johnson is my highest exposed player in best ball, 39%. Because I keep drafting him in like round 14 or 15, just because I'm like, Swift has to get hurt at some point, right? And he's still getting goal line carries, so I like it. I just keep drafting him there, and I think it's going to pay off. But my top 5, by the way, actually this is just my top 5, by the way: Roschon Johnson, Tyler Algier, same mindset. James Conner, number 3. James Conner's fantasy playoff schedule is amazing. Blake Corum, same principle, and then Tony Pollard, number 5. I've been drafting Pollard a lot because in these week 5 onward, week 6 onward, etc., because he's had his bye week already. So plus, I always thought he was undervalued. He's going like round 6 or round 7 right now, which I think is just way too late. So
yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. All right. A question from Slew: because of mega bye week 12. Yeah, 6 teams on bye this week, and then 6 teams again week 14. This is what I've left: Gibbs, Benson, Estime, Jameson Williams, Pittman, Jacoby Myers. Standard scoring. Can he please eliminate 1? I have Walt's flex rankings.
Eliminate 1 of that crew.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, I Gibbs to me is a definite. Williams is probably a definite too. Estime probably a definite. Oh man, Pittman's hard to trust. Pittman's the most talented of those guys, but of the receivers, but Pittman's the one I trust the least in that mix. Don't you think? I just don't trust the quarterback, man. It's hard to. I don't trust the offense.
Yeah, it's hard to trust Pittman. It's hard to trust Estime, who, everyone got rug pulled by Estime because everyone thought he's going to be the starter, and then suddenly he was the backup. And then you have Benson's Furniture here, who's he is a backup, but he is getting some carries. So I think it has to be one of those 3. So
yeah, I mean, I guess Estime's, I don't know. Yeah, maybe Pittman has a little bit of a floor still. And Richardson's willing to chuck him up. Maybe Pittman gets a long one, gets lucky. Yeah, as I think about it, I think it depends. I've said this before in the show. I don't have like a one-size-fits-all ranking. I've said it before. Like, people who have to make weekly rankings like you do, like, that sucks. It is like, that is a thankless job, and everyone gets mad at you if you don't get it right. Yeah, like, yeah. Just like, I hate the weekly rankings thing. I'm so glad I'm not in a position where I have to do that. To me, it depends on. It's about, like, Pittman has more upside to me. I think Estime or Benson, the running backs, and Myers have more floor. Like, they're not going to go crazy, but maybe they have a little bit of floor. That's not true with Estime. Estime doesn't have a floor either, I guess. Benson and Myers have a little bit of floor, but minimal upside. Pittman's got probably the most upside because he can catch a bomb touchdown, right? And, he could have 2 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown, and that changes the game.
Yeah. Pittman's been hurt. Like he should have been on IR, but he's been hurt for a while, so maybe he's going to be closer to 100%. Like at some point, he's going to be 100% or close to it, and so you're going to see it, and you don't want to miss out on that week. So I could see playing Pittman, even though he's been a huge disappointment. So yeah. So all right. Anyway, let's get to the next game. We have Saints 35, Browns 14. Taysom Hill had one of the best tight end performances in NFL history.
And he didn't play one snap at tight end.
Well, he had 8 catches, 50 yards. He had 7 carries, 138 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, and he went 1 of 2 passing, 18 yards, and an interception. Love how he had the interception in there. Imagine if he had like Taysom Hill, like his scoring in fantasy, and he lost by 1 point because of that interception. So anyway, no, the Browns like did not want to tackle this guy at all. And it's crazy that he's 34 years old. It's not like he's like 29 or 30. Like he's like retirement age for most players. He's 34 and yet he's still doing this. It's pretty insane. So my stance with Taysom Hill is as long as Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are out, and Rashid Shaheed's on IR for the rest of the year, Olave's gonna be out for the next 2 weeks. We'll see if he comes back at all. He had a brutal concussion. As long as those two guys are out, like Hill is absolutely playable like each week. And then with the Browns, Jameis Winston, like I got criticized for betting the Browns heavily this week. It's like the only big bet we got wrong this week. Unfortunately, it's my pick of the month, but still, Jameis Winston was like someone was like, I can't believe you bet Jameis Winston on the road. I'm like, well, Jameis Winston had a good game. Like he had 395 yards, 2 touchdowns. I felt like he was like the least to blame here. He completed several deep passes. Jerry Jeudy had an insane 89-yard touchdown. And Njoku had a great game. Elijah Moore, another slot receiver burning the Saints. Like, surprise, surprise. Cedric Tillman was a bit of a disappointment, but maybe he'll bounce back. And then Nick Chubb was, he just doesn't look right. It's a good matchup. It just went 11 for 50. He just doesn't look like he has any juice in his legs right now. But, coming off that brutal knee injury, it's not a surprise. So what's your takeaway here?
I mean, Jameson also threw some really brutal passes into double and triple coverage. So, like, I wouldn't say he had a good game. Like, the stats look better. I think he made some poor decisions that put his team in a really tough spot. He's the prototypical, like, he's never seen a deep pass he doesn't love. He's like, oh, I got a wide open guy 10 yards on the field. I got a guy triple covered 50 yards on the field. Give me that guy. Yep. I mean, that's just Jameis. He just. I appreciate the courage, at least. The balls he's got is fantastic. But yeah, I think I don't know, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Jameis he's been up and down his whole career, and he's got great moments, and so whatever. By the way, I mean, what we're getting from Jameis Winston right now is considerably better than what we were getting from Deshaun Watson early in the year.
Oh yeah.
I think watching Winston just makes me realize, Watson's toast. Like, he's done, right? I mean, I'd be shocked if we see him in the NFL next year. I mean, he was terrible. But anyway, yeah, I think Nick Chubb's the one that I thought would be the one, could be a difference maker. He's not. Maybe the injuries are just too. He's battled so much, in his career, going back to college. The player that I think is the most intriguing of all these players here is MVS. By the way, I mentioned Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill literally did not line up once as a tight end. He was a slot receiver, split out. He was never anywhere tight near the line of scrimmage.
Right.
He's a halfback. He's a quarterback. I'm just like why is he listed as a tight end? I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. Like, he's everything but a tight end. He's more of a running back than he is a tight end. I just think it's funny that anyway.
He's like a fullback. Like, remember those pass catching fullbacks? He used to catch like 100 passes. Like Larry Centers.
Larry Centers, right? So, I think it's great. Anyone who had Taysom Hill and then won their week because of him, I just think it's a great FU to the system. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's just anarchy. This is why we shouldn't have tight ends anyway. Just tight ends should be mixed in with receivers. Like, I hate a tight end position. It drives me crazy. Anyway, MVS is the one I wanted to ask you about. Like, he gets the bomb. He's getting these big deep guys. He's getting what was going to Rashid Shaheed early in the year, and he's actually coming up big. Like, MVS has been terrible most of his career. he sucked. But he actually has looked okay the last 2 games. And, he's on bye week now this week. But, like, do you trust him coming back?
Well, it's I can't trust him in like regular fantasy, because he could give you a 0. So, it really depends on your options. Like you mentioned Keenan Allen versus Ricky Pearsall. I think I'd play MBS over them in a favorable matchup, but in a tougher matchup, I would not go that way. It just like obviously best ball is much better because you want those guys in spike weeks, but in regular fantasy, it's just hard to click the name, even DFS, and I'm really kicking myself. Like I had, by the way, I had Taysom Hill and MBS in one lineup, and then I got rid of it. I was like, there's no way this is gonna hit, and of course I got rid of it anyway. Yeah, so it's hard to click the button there, but just knowing that you might get a 0, and he's gonna have some zeros. Like this guy is not a good player. But he has game-breaking speed. We know that, and he can catch long touchdown. And he is doing, like you said, what Rashid Shaheed was doing, to a lesser extent. I will say though that I heard this on a podcast. Derek Carr's dad was trying to learn the name of Marcus Valdez-Scantling, like he couldn't pronounce it. It's like maybe that's like a sign that is like his son was talking him up, and like his dad like was trying to learn the name. Just like the slightest thing, but I do think that like I think he's going to have a couple more spike weeks, but he's going to have some zeros as well. So it really depends on what your options are. If you have 3 good receivers, then you don't have to bother with him. But if you have crap options as your third receiver and you need to start a third receiver, like you might consider him in a good matchup.
That's what. Yeah, I mean I actually have MVS, Keenan Allen, and Ricky Pearsall as my no. Obviously MVS is out this week. Bye week, and I have Alvin Kamara, and so he's out on my bye week. So I've been starting Jahmyr Gibbs as my main flex in that league, with Mixon and Kamara as my running backs. So Gibbs and Mixon will be on running backs. So I got to figure out my flex spot and my third receiver spot. So Ricky Pearsall and Keenan Allen may both be in my lineup this week. How about that for grossness?
I like when I face you this week. I face you the week you scored like 160 points, of course.
I am 8-3 in the league, and I'm the number 1 scoring team, and have had the most points scored against me. I'm not bragging here or anything. Just
I put this on Twitter. I am in one league. I'm the highest scoring team in the league. I'm 3-8.
Gotta love it.
That's impossible. That's like ridiculous. It's a desperation start. Estimate Roshan definitely.
Roshan.
First of all, Swift is hurt. Even if he plays, he may not be. He might not get 100% of the snaps. And he's getting goal line carries, whereas Estime, you just don't know what you're going to get with him. Like he was the starter randomly in week 10, and then week 11 he was like a third stringer. He was behind McLaughlin, so it's a tough one. So yeah, this combined defense kicker. That's actually what they do in the league, in which I'm 3-8. It's you start a defense and you get the kicker points as well.
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Yeah, I hadn't either before that, and I like it. You don't have to worry about your kicker at all. So yeah, I'm a fan. Anyway,
although you were the one that convinced me a couple years ago. I used to be anti-kicker. I kind of you sold me on there's good reasons to have kickers in your league.
Yes, absolutely, because there are going to be stupid people who draft kickers early, and so that's leverage that you get because you should not draft kickers early.
The greatest thing for me, this is what I've used it for roster management. I think this is a great tool. And really, you mentioned this to me, Walt, like pretty much every week I drop my kicker on Monday or Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And I have an extra roster spot. So I pick up extra players throughout the week, and it gives me a couple extra days to make decisions. And then I eventually drop one of those guys on Saturday, pick up a kicker on Saturday, and it allows me to play keep away. There have been moments where there's a guy that like with a hot waiver wire pickup that I've been able to steal away from guys, and he ends up being, unrostered throughout the weekend. But I would prefer him be unrostered than to be in the roster of the guy I'm playing against. So
yeah,
I use that roster spot for a little keep away action.
Yeah, definitely recommend that. Kickers, you should not draft them before the last round. It's so stupid that people do that. There was a league I was in. It's like 8 years ago or so. Someone drafted a kicker in like the 7th round. I was like, "What are you doing? Just like filling out roster spots? Like, what do you like? I don't understand."
Yeah.
Anyway, you have Rams 28, Patriots 22. This score was not as it's close. The score's a lot closer than the game really was. It was actually like 28-13 before some scores late. Although the Patriots did lead 7-0, but still, Drake May actually looked pretty good. I thought, he does make some boneheaded decisions at times. He reminds me of Josh Allen year one, where you saw glimpses, but then you saw like some bad plays. And he does not have much at receiver at all. Like Kendrick Bourne was his leading receiver. I like Kendrick Bourne, but he's coming off a torn ACL. So I did not expect him to do well. Demario Douglas is PPR is just a PPR plus guy. But he's never going to be. It feels like he's never going to be like one of those spike week guys like MBS. Like he's always going to be like steady, like between 8 and 14 points in PPR. And then Hunter Henry had a good game. The Rams can't stop tight ends. You brought up, by the way, Dallas Goedert earlier. I actually think Goddard could be a good start this week against the Rams because they can't defend tight ends. Anyway, so with the Rams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp are both healthy. This team has been so much better since those guys returned, which is not a surprise at all. Stafford has been a functional quarterback, whereas without those two guys, like he was scoring like 11, 12 fantasy points per week. But here he had 35. It's like he can his ceiling as long as these guys are healthy. Nacua had a scary moment in this game where he caught a touchdown and he was down on the ground for like 3 minutes. I'm like, oh man, I had the Rams at minus 4.5 or -4. And I was like, oh no, we lost Puka. And then he didn't miss any time. Like he was just back. So pretty cool to see him stay healthy. So what are your thoughts on this game?
By the way, Drake, you mentioned Drake May. A moment ago, I jokingly said that, Caleb Williams, he's the fourth best quarterback in this draft class. It's because Drake May I think he's surpassed him. Drake May is playing better than Caleb Williams is right now. Caleb Williams has better high moments, but has worse low moments and is more inconsistent. So Drake May has showed me, you compared him to Josh Allen. I don't think he has the same like Josh Allen, like pizzazz kind of thing. But he did remind me of someone from that same draft class. He reminds me a little bit of like his passing game reminds me a little of he's kind of Lamar Jackson with less rushing skills. Like if you watch him play, his style kind of reminds me of Jackson, a rookie year Jackson. So, I don't know that Drake May will turn into the, to the passer and the player that Lamar Jackson has been, obviously, but he kind of I think your Josh Allen comparison is not crazy. So if you're a Patriots fan, I think you got to be excited. And he's actually a decent like streaming option. If you're a streaming quarterback guy, I think he's a great option. Down the stretch here. So I really like him. Obviously, the Rams coming back with with their quarterbacks. Obviously, big difference here. I've got Matthew Stafford on my bench. I've got Matthew Stafford or Brock Purdy this week. And I think I could flip a coin on which one I think is going to be better. But I can't start Stafford because he's playing the Eagles, and I just can't handle the emotional torture. On a Sunday night, watching the Eagles, wanting the Eagles to win, but wanting Stafford to throw touchdowns. I can't handle that torture, so I got to go Purdy.
Yeah, Purdy's banged up. Just watch that. He has a shoulder injury. He was limited in practice today. I assume he's going to play. By the way, George Kittle was not on the injury report today, so which is good news for your Purdy play.
He said he was going to play.
Yeah,
today he said it.
Yeah. I worry about the other guys like Nick Bosa who didn't practice today. All right. So we have Steelers 18, Ravens 16. As Evan said on Tuesday's show, whenever teams play the Steelers, they just forget how to play football. Derrick Henry, who never fumbles, he fumbled. Zay Flowers dropped multiple passes. Justin Tucker missed multiple field goals. The Ravens coaching staff made some decisions. They made some poor decisions. Lamar Jackson, who has been a very good passer this year, completed just half or less than half of his attempts. So the Ravens just a very poor game overall. Isaiah Likely was the only guy. And by the way, I was talking to Jacob tonight, actually, Jacob Kamker, and I was telling him about best ball, like how it's so. I feel like it's so lucrative because people overreact in these drafts. In the week 2, I think I told you this. In week 2 onward, best ball, people are drafting Isaiah Likely in the 4th round. Like the 4th round. Like think about like the leverage you get from stupidity like that. Like that now he's going like 18th round, which it's just crazy, just overreacting to one game. Anyway, Steelers disappointing game, even though they won. They only scored 18, but Baltimore's defense was ranked 30th heading into the week 11. They can't stop the pass at all. George Pickens 8 for 89, but he missed out on a reception because he only got 1 foot down. Jalen Warren had 13 touches, which was surprising because he was very iffy to play. Like he was questionable. But yeah, he still had 13 touches, which is nice. And should note, Darnell Washington, ever since Russell Wilson took over as the starter, Darnell Washington has had more targets than Pat Fragment. So just keep that in mind. So any takeaway from this game?
I think that comment that anytime a team plays the Pittsburgh Steelers, they kind of forgot to play. I think it's great. I think that's a great kind of analogy. Yeah. The Pittsburgh, this team, you know, I've gone back and forth over the years on Mike Tomlin, on what I think of him. There have been moments over the last, he's been coaching, what, 16 years? Whatever it's been.
Since 07, yeah.
I've had moments where I thought he was a brilliant, amazing, one of the best coaches ever, Hall of Famer, clearly best coach in the league. And then I've had moments where I thought, this guy's a total dope. What is he doing? He doesn't belong in the league. And I've had moments where I thought he was somewhere in between. Literally, and I think I'm swinging back in the pendulum to he's Hall of Famer, greatest coach ever. Like this team is not that talented. This team has a lot of flaws, but yet they just don't make dumb mistakes for the most part. They generally play solid football, particularly their back seven on the defense. They just play really smart football, and there's something to be said about players that try hard and play smart, like effort and good choices, like just go a long way. And you realize like how many of these athletes that are, you know, phenomenal talents, paid tens of millions of dollars, they just have stupid moments. Like every game you have players just like, what are you doing in that moment, dude? And it's pretty remarkable to watch that the Pittsburgh Steelers simply don't beat themselves. I know that's an old kind of tried Adam adage. It's like a old adage, right? But like I think it's true with this team. And so I think generally from a fantasy perspective, like there are certain guys you trust, certain guys you don't. And it's like, there's not a lot of guys on Pittsburgh I trust. Like Harris or Warren, like you don't know any given week who's going to be the guy. I don't know that I trust any of the receiving options that score at any point. Like, are they ever going to have a receiver score a touchdown ever again? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe like, so it's like, it's hard to trust anyone on that team. And yet they're, what are they, 8-2, right? Yeah. And they're like, maybe they're a legitimate team to come out of the AFC. Probably not, but they're at least going to be in the mix. They're like in a weird, I just want to basically say, I feel like they're a weird team in that they're not sexy. They're not fantasy friendly. They're not better friendly in many situations, but they're just a solid team and they're going to be hard to beat.
Yeah. Their loss to Dallas completely mystifies me back in week 5. Like, yep. Micah Parsons did not play in that game. I've been saying that. I don't understand that result. Anyway, we have a question here from Parioko. Trade away Gibbs, Jacobs, and Dell for Saquon, Garrett Wilson, and Amari Cooper. His running backs now are Achane and Gibbs. Flex is Jacobs, so I'd be replacing Gibbs with Saquon, and flex Wilson/Higgins instead of Jacobs.
Okay. I didn't follow. Okay, trade away.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not bright, guys. It takes me a second. Gibbs, Jacobs, and Dell. And I'm going to get Saquon, Wilson, and Amari Cooper back.
Yeah. Yes.
My running backs now are Achane, Gibbs, and flex. I don't know what you think. I would not do this deal.
So, I mean,
as great as Saquon is,
it feels like Dell and Cooper are kind of a wash.
Yeah.
At this point. So it's really Gibbs and Jacobs for Saquon and Wilson. And Saquon's a little bit better than Gibbs. So you're really wondering, like, who, like, would you rather have a receiver or a running back? Because, I'd rather have Jacobs than Wilson, and that's not even factoring in that Wilson hasn't had his bye yet. And
he's coming off a game where he just had 4 catches for 18 yards.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers could be benched. That's an issue. His receivers are Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and Higgins. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think I'd do this deal. I don't think it's not a bad trade, but I don't. I'd rather have your side.
Yeah,
I
I think
yeah.
I'm more on this than you are. Like I'm more against this than you are.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's a toss up between a running back and a receiver, I always with the running back. I mean, in almost every case, because the running backs are just more valuable. They're more helpful to your team overall,
Yeah.
and they get more touches. They have better floors, and in this case, when it comes with the Jets situation, literally Garrett Wilson is a phenomenal talent who I had as a top 14 pick coming into the year. That looks terrible right now, but he literally just had 4 catches for 18 yards, and that team is in a total spiral. I would want no part of that offense right now.
Yeah. So to kind of point out where these guys are going right now in best ball, so it was just kind of instructive to like where these guys will be drafted next year. Um, Josh Jacobs right now is going in the 3rd round. He went where'd he go? He went probably do fine. He went 303, and Garrett Wilson went 505. So it's a 2-round difference there. Now I know that.
Even
Go ahead.
even 505 feels high.
Yeah, yeah. Considering that Wilson hasn't had his bye yet, again, that's a big deal. So if you were to make this trade after this week, it might be a little bit better. But I still wouldn't do it. But I again, like Kenny hates it more than I do. I don't think it's awful, but I still wouldn't trade it. Trade Olave for JMO. Because Olave may not play this year. Like that concussion he suffered was so bad. Like he got carted off. It was his second concussion in 3 weeks.
And you never know, right?
Yeah. I might as well get something for him. Yeah. All right. Let's get to the next game here. Dolphins 34, Raiders 19. This is a close game for a while. Dolphins really struggled to put the Raiders away until late. For the Raiders, it was just like Minshew to Bowers over and over and over again. 13 catches, 126 yards, 1 touchdown. Just insane use to cheer for Bowers, who's, I think heading into next year, he might be the tight end 1.
Oh, absolutely. I think, yeah.
Yeah. For the Dolphins, Tyreek Hill finally did something. It wasn't an amazing game, but at least like 7 for 61 and a touchdown at this point. Like, I don't know if that's the best we're going to get from him, but I imagine he's going to have some better games. But this was his best game, kind of sadly. Jonnu Smith was a beast in this game. The Raiders have demonstrated many times this year that they can't defend tight ends. And then Jalen Waddle just not doing anything. Like 2 for 37. Like, where's this guy? Like, why aren't they using him? I don't understand what Mike McDaniel is doing. Even though they won, so you can't like heavily criticize him. But still, like McDaniel's play calling this year has been horrible. So I just don't understand why he's misusing Waddle like this. So what's your takeaway from this game?
I mean, we talked about Garrett Wilson a moment ago. Waddle's in the exact same boat, maybe even worse, because it's more like with the Jets, you can at least explain why things are going wrong. With the Dolphins, it feels unexplainable, and it's like it's just the coach, as you alluded to. So, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to trust anyone on either of these teams other than Bowers. Like, which is weird to think. Like a rookie tight end on the Raiders is the only guy amongst. I mean, remember what we thought the Miami Dolphins were going to be coming into the year. Obviously, if you own Devon Achane, he's going to be in your lineup. Like he kind of has to be. But I don't trust him. Like I think there's a low floor there any given week with him. There's obviously a floor with Jalen Waddle. There's a floor with Tyreek Hill. There's a floor with Tua. I don't think there's anyone on either one of these two teams that I feel good about going into my fantasy playoffs. And if I could, if you held Tyreek Hill all year, like you held him and he was taking up a roster spot, unloading him at this point feels like a painful thing to do. So I guess you're just stuck with him. But if your trade deadline hasn't passed and you can get any value, any reliable value for any one of these guys, I think I might do it, man. I think this is a lost cause for both of these, for the offensive weapons on these teams that we thought would be good.
I would say though, I like Jacoby Myers a little bit because his fantasy playoff schedule is Falcons, Jaguars, Saints. That is tremendous.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I would try to get him if you can. yeah, I agree with you otherwise. All right, next game, Vikings 23, Titans 13. The Titans scored 13 points, but like 7 came on this broken play to Westbrook Akine for 98 yards. The corner fell down or something. I forget what happened, but like, it was like a blown coverage of sorts, and so he scored 98 yards. And then otherwise, the Titans didn't do much. They scored 6 points. There was a play in this game where Jordan Addison got hit in the chest in the end zone, and they called the penalty. And like Brian Callahan, the coach of the Titans, just yelled at the officials for like 5 minutes, and then they finally flagged them. It's yeah, this is what the Titans season has come to. Very promising to start, especially with their defense. Really, only their defense and Tony Pollard. But their defense has lost so many players, so they're not good anymore. And Pollard had a tough matchup, but I think he's going to rebound this week against Houston a little bit. So Jefferson 6 for 81. He got tackled at the 1 again. I don't have the exact stat for this, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Justin Jefferson leads the NFL in being tackled at the 1 yard line, because it feels like every single week he gets tackled at the 1.
It's funny. This is a weird providential moment, because I happened to know the leader of that stat this year.
It's either him or Saquon Barkley.
It's Saquon by 2x actually. Saquon has been tackled 11 times at the 1.
Okay.
Jefferson 6 times at the 1.
Okay. Right, I got the top 2. There it is.
They're the top 2. That is a weird. I don't know how I happen to look. I happen to have seen that this week.
Nice.
It's so great. Anyway.
Yeah, that was awesome. So, what are your takeaways from this game?
I think what you just said. I tell you, here's one major takeaway. If you alluded to Tony Pollard earlier, if you can trade for Tony Pollard looks good still. People think, and I heard people on Twitter say he's washed. No, he looks fine. This offense is just not good. However, speaking of fantasy playoffs, he gets the Jaguars twice. Will Levis actually looks like a decent, like he's been okay like the last few weeks. If you can get Tony Pollard as your like third running back flex spot type guy, he can't cost much at this point, right? Because he's woefully underperformed because of the offense. I'm telling you, it's if anyone who if you've not watched them play, it's not him. It's been the offense, but the offense has gotten slightly better over the last few weeks. And with the fantasy playoff schedule they've got, I would be willing to bet that Tony Pollard is going to be a league winner in the fantasy playoffs. And so he's the guy to target if you're, in a season long or in DFS. If your trade deadline hasn't passed on season long or in DFS, I'm going to have a lot of Tony Pollard.
And to add to your point, Tajay Spears he missed practice today with a concussion. So Pollard. I mean, Pollard was already like getting most of the workload anyway, but you don't have to worry about Spears eating into anything this week or maybe next week as well.
That's a bad thing though. That might drive the price to get Tony Pollard in a trade. Might drive it up a little bit. But
maybe this early in the week though, if you hurry up, maybe not. But by Saturday, I think you could be right. But anyway, I mean, look at this box score. You had Pollard 9 carries, Spears 3, and this is a game where the Titans were way behind the entire time. Pollard had 2 catches, Spears had 2 catches, so it's like 11 touches to 5. I think that's if it's not Spears, it's gonna be like 11 to 3 to Chestnut or something. So it's like or I guess 13 to 3. So it's like it's not that much of a big deal, but it is a slight bump. And like I said, Pollard has been going like 6th or 7th round in best ball. So it's kind of like you're trading for a 6th or 7th rounder whose production is going to be more like 3rd or 4th round. All right, next game, Colts 28, Jets 27. What a disaster for the Jets, who continue to be favored. They were favored by 4 in this game. The Sharps keep betting them. It's just so mystifying. Aaron Rodgers, 22-29 may look great, but he just keeps dumping off passes, just so ineffective. And I saw a report today that said the Jets were considering benching him. I guess for Tyrod Taylor, it doesn't sound great. But it's this offense is just like, except for Breece Hall, like how do you trust anyone here? You talk about like not trusting players in a recent game, like it's in the Dolphins game. It's hard to trust anyone for the Jets. For the Colts, Richardson had I feel like his best game of the season. 20 of 30, 272 and a touchdown, and then 10 carries, 32 rushing yards, two rushing touchdowns. Not surprising at all because he had to prove that he deserved to be the starter after being benched. And so I like to see him. I like that he bounced back. So Richardson is someone that you could have a decent finish to the season. Josh Downs, the receiver you want here, he's the number one receiver over Pittman, I feel like, at this point. And then you have like Alec Pierce and Adonai Mitchell. At any point, they could have a spike week. They're kind of like MVS in that vein. So again, it's better for best ball. But if you're a desperate receiver, you could just take a swing at one of these guys and hope that they get like 20 DK points or 20 fantasy points in general, because like that, it's definitely possible with them. So any takeaway here?
Yeah, you said this was Richardson's best game. I mean, the bar was not set very high. So,
right.
so while I agree with the statement, I'm still not totally impressed with Richardson. I mean, he just has so many moments where he's so bad. He makes so many bad decisions. Then he has moments where he looks great. You're like, okay, like that's why he's the fourth pick of the draft. Like I get it. I mean, the ball just like jumps off his hand when he throws the ball. It's remarkable. Again, as an Eagles fan, I'm watching Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, it's like he's like shot putting the ball. And so it's like a totally different style. It's hard to trust anyone. Honestly, even like, you mentioned Breece Hall. Breece Hall right now in like typical ESPN standard scoring league, he's the 10th best running back overall in total points, and he hasn't had his bye yet. So like on a points per, like he's a low end RB1, high end RB2. He's had some really poor weeks. Like, I'm not sure I totally trust him. Obviously, if you have him, you're starting him. Like, duh. I'm not saying bench him, but like I don't feel great about him. And then Jonathan Taylor's had some really good weeks, but like the way the offense is, like I'm not sure I like love Taylor in my lineup either. Like, obviously if you've drafted Jonathan Taylor, you probably don't have better options. You're not going to bench him, but like I'm not like loving. There's no one on these two teams that I'm just so excited to have in my lineup. And Taylor and Hall are the only guys I want anywhere near my lineup. Garrett Wilson, I want nowhere near my lineup. There's no one on the Jets I want. There's no one on the Colts I want, unless I just absolutely like I'm just totally desperate. We mentioned Pittman earlier as a potential, swing for the fences, but man, in season long, I'd be scouring the waiver wire if I had to rely on any of these guys.
Well, I like Downs. I've been drafting him pretty consistently in like 8th round. He hasn't had his bye, but still, I like. It seems like he's been pretty consistent. Even with Richardson, he's had some good games. So we have a super chat. John Sanders 230. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it, John. Is Woody Johnson the worst owner in sports? I say no. I mean, at least he spends money. Like some of these owners don't spend money, like the Bengals owner.
Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones has got. He's got to be the worst.
Well, at least Jerry Jones spends money too. Like then again, he won't spend money. He won't spend money for curtains because did you hear that?
Yeah, he's an idiot.
He's like, it's like, well, you should know where the sun is. He's like, what I want to know is where the moon is.
Like, the worst owner in sports is probably got to be worse. There's got to be like, I don't know. Maybe I think Jerry Jones is a dope. So I think Jerry Jones is a terrible owner.
There we go. Axe Tepper, David Axe Tepper, Panthers owner, who prevented his team from drafting CJ Stroud because he was like, I know more football than these guys. give me Bryce Young. He's great. I watched Alabama.
It's a good one. I'm still going Jerry Jones.
Okay, fair enough.
Because he's just so arrogant. He's on like most owners. You don't even know who the owner is. Most teams, like they're totally, out of the way. He's such a, he meddles. He wants to be the face of the team. He wants to be the star of the show, and that's a problem.
Yeah. I get it, but then again, like he does shell out money, so and he loves his team. There's some owners who just don't care. Like the Glazers for Tampa, they just don't seem to care. Like they're more worried about their soccer team,
Yeah.
So I don't know. So Woody Johnson, he's bad, but there are worse ones. Because like again, like he shelled out a lot of money for these guys. Now it's bad moves, but still, he at least is trying. Cassandra, PPR start 3 receivers. He has Dell, Addison, Jameson Williams, I assume, Elijah Moore on waivers, Alec Pierce, Slayton, Kendrick Bourne, Josh Palmer, Vele, McMillan, or a deep sleeper. I mean, Moore is a tough start in this. The conditions on Thursday is going to be 38 degrees, rainy, and 15-mile-an-hour winds. So it's going to be tough for Moore to get there, I think. And plus, he doesn't have a lot of upside. It is PPR, but still. I think I would start the first 3 guys you mentioned, Dell, Addison, Williams. If you want to swing for the fences, then maybe Pierce. But Jameson Williams is a swing for the fences guy. So, and maybe so does Addison to an extent. And I guess Dell, you could even say Dell is too, because like he'll have spike weeks, but he'll also have minimal outputs too. So you have like 3 risky guys who can like all get like 3 points each, but some like they could also have spike weeks too. So yeah, I think I would go with those 3, the first 3.
Yeah. I mean, of those options, I mean, Dell, Addison, Williams are all clearly the second passing target option on their team at current time, right? I mean, so assuming Laporta's out, but even he's still like, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Laporta kind of cannibalize each other a little bit. Williams kind of gets his own thing on the outside. So Moore is clearly the third option, right? I mean, he's clearly got 2 other pass catchers, 3 others if you count the tight end. So like, yeah, Moore might be the 3rd or 4th passing option on his team, where the other guys are clearly, in the top 2 pecking order on their teams.
Yeah. What a shame the Saints are on a bye, because you could just start the slot receiver against them every week. So slot receiver just kills them, including Elijah Moore. So if you're considering Moore just based on what he did last week, keep that in mind. Moore had his best week of the season because he was playing the Saints. Kimiku says Jets favored by 1.5 off their bye at home against the Seahawks. So it is preposterous. It really is. They keep being favored, and I bet I'm willing to bet the Sharps will keep taking them.
I guess I don't get it. Like, is it just the Aaron Rodgers, the name power, the name recognition? Like, what is the?
You know what? The same thing happened 2 years ago in Tom Brady's final year with the Buccaneers. Now that team was better than this Jets team. They made the playoffs, but they kept being favored by a ton of points in every game, and they almost never covered. And they even lost some ugly games. Like they lost to Cleveland back when Cleveland's still not a good team, but like Cleveland that year I believe was when Jacoby Brissett was starting. And so like they lost to that team. They lost to the Panthers. Like they had some ugly games too where they lost, and so they were better, but still that kind of reminds me of that. Whereas like the sportsbooks are just too slow to adjust for some reason. They just I don't know why they're just not adjusting. Maybe because if they think they set a real line, then the sharps will take the right side. That's what I could think of, I guess, but it doesn't make sense that. But the sharps keep taking the Jets, so I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to look past the talent on that Jets roster. It really is. They have a lot of talent, but they're the worst coached team in the NFL. Like it's not even close. I don't think.
I think Aaron Rodgers. There have been moments this year with Aaron Rodgers where it's like, okay, he has lost a step. He's not quite the same player.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, there's an emotional edge there. It's like they just don't seem to be in the games emotionally. Like they just seem to not care. Like I think they've checked out, and part of that's coaching certainly. Mm-hmm. And it's not just that they're losing. We see losing teams all the time. We see bad teams all the time. Still, toward the end of the year, kind of give a bunch of energy just to to be a spoiler or whatever. We see that from bad teams every year down the stretch. This team shows no life, no chance of being that kind of team. This down the stretch, this team shows every bit of being the totally pack it in, and it wouldn't surprise me if they lose the last the last several games by 20 points or more.
Yeah, I've said this a couple times, so forgive me if you've heard it already. Not you, Kenny, because you haven't been on. I think you might agree with this. So I think like the worst teams in the NFL are different from first half of the year to the second half of the year. First half of the year, the worst teams in the NFL are these young teams that maybe like either don't have a lot of talent or don't have enough experience or just coach poorly. Like the Panthers, for example, the Patriots, like they were the worst teams in the NFL to start the year. But that's not the case anymore. These teams are a little bit better than some of these veteran teams that had high expectations, but have fallen off either because of injury or poor play or like poor coaching. Like Dallas, Jacksonville, like these teams that thought they might make the playoffs. They lost their quarterbacks. They lost a bunch of other players. They're awful now. The Jets are in that category, I think. And now that the 3-8, like even if they run the table, the 9-8 may not be good enough. So there could be a quit factor just because like they thought they're going to go to the playoffs. They thought they're going to go to the Super Bowl, and like they're not even going to get to the playoffs or even have a 500 record. So these are the worst teams like going forward. Giants as well. Giants may not have had the same sort of expectations, but 2 years ago they did make the playoffs, and I have to assume that they thought they're going to be better than they were last year, and now they're 2-9. They benched Daniel Jones, so and I know you're happy about that at least.
I mean, there's nothing greater. No, I wish they would stick with Daniel Jones. There's nothing greater than watching him be the quarterback of the New York Football Giants.
Actually, I think that's for someone who hates the Giants. I think you want them to play Daniel Jones.
Exactly.
Because DeVito's going to get them the number 1 pick in the draft.
DeVito's kind of like, if you're like a Giants fan, right? And your soul has already been totally tainted by the dark side. If that's you, at least there's some sense of like, okay, they realize Daniel Jones sucks. They're going to move on from him. Like if they continue to start him and like speak confidently about him, then like it would be like more crushing because it's like, okay, my team actually believes in this guy. Oh my gosh. But at least it's like, okay, they know he sucks. We know he sucks. We're all going to move on next year. Okay. Like there's a glimmer of hope if you're a Giants fan. And I don't want that. I don't want Giants fan to be happy. I don't want them to have any glimmer of hope. I want them to be sad and cry.
Well,
exhausted
I don't know.
With life.
Have you heard some of these quotes from the players? Like Dexter Lawrence is so mad about the benching. He's like Daniel Jones is by far the best quarterback. Can't believe we benched him. Some of these Giants players are very angry about it.
Daniel Jones got some like blackmail pictures of them or something. I don't know.
I mean he is better than Tommy DeVito. Like there's no question about that. But DeVito gives them the best chance at the number 1 pick. So it's like it is the best move.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right. So we have speaking of these horrible teams. Lions 52, Jaguars 6. The Lions scored touchdowns on their first 7 drives. They're actually down 3-0. So you could have maybe live bet them at I don't know, minus 12.5, minus 12. And like, I mean, anything you bet on the Lions would have gotten there. Jared Goff bounced back, 412 and 4 touchdowns. Montgomery, 75 and 2 touchdowns. Gibbs, 69 touchdowns. St. Brown, 161 and 2 touchdowns. I did play him in my DFS lineup. That would have been the same DFS lineup as I had Hill and MVS, by the way. I had St. Brown was always in there. Just because the Jaguars give up so much production to slot receivers. I think that would have won the million. Just because like I don't think anyone would have had that combination, or at least very few people. Anyway, Jaguars just, except for Brian Thomas, there's nothing here. It's just a desolate wasteland. Mac Jones is awful. So yeah, any takeaway here?
Mac Jones to Gabe Davis. What a pair. You gotta love it.
Well, Gabe Davis is out for the year, by the way.
So good. Oh man, look, what a terrible. I mean, Doug Peterson's gone, right? This team's a disaster. Tank Bigsby is one of the few highlights on the team. He was out, obviously, and Travis Etienne had the whole backfield to himself, and he did what Etienne does. I feel like I legitimately I do not relish in a player sucking and. Like I don't. If the player's bad or not having a good year, or these are human beings, so I legitimately have compassion. However, I love being proven right. I mean, everyone. And I've been saying for 3 years, this guy sucks. He's not a good player. Don't draft him. Don't trust him. And I feel like I've been told over and over again by people how good he is. He just needs opportunity. And I'm just like, Exhibit A. Like this guy is terrible. Like just stop it. Move on. You wasted a first round pick. The Detroit Lions, by the way, They're just well coached. They're well, and like everything is clicking, and they are better than they like. The sum of their parts are better. Like their individual players are good, but this team is even better, and that's the Dan Campbell effect. I think. I mean, he's really proving to be a really good coach, much better than I thought he would be. And so I on that one, I got to tip my cap to him. My favorite part about this game is they just kept going for it. They just kept late in the third quarter. They were up like 35 to whatever it was. They were up like 32 points or something like that, whatever it was. 4th and 2, late in the third quarter. Like they're deep in Jaguars territory. Just kick the field goal and move on. No, they don't. They go for it on 4th down. They get the first down and they scored another touchdown. Just like, dude, like no etiquette. He doesn't care. I think it's great. It does. Yeah. At one point, you're like, man, and even when they got the backup in there on Hooker, right? Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Even when he got in there, they were still throwing the ball. They still had their receivers in there. I'm like, dude, there's like 12 minutes left in this game. You're up by 40 plus points. Like if one of your players get injured right now, you're gonna. I mean, what a disaster, right? Like Jared Goff should not have been there. Still at that point, like Amon-Ra should not have been there catching balls in the fourth quarter. Gibbs should not be running the ball in the fourth quarter. What a disaster that would have been if one of those guys got hurt in the fourth quarter when you're up by 40 points. So but I also just love that they're just putting a total spanking on, and I think that was, if you're a Lions fan, I guess to some extent that's entertaining.
Yeah. I mean, the Lions have suffered through so many bad years, so it feels like they are they deserve it, So we have another blowout here. Broncos 38, Falcons 6. This one was less predictable. The Broncos were only favored by 2 points or something. Bo Nix, you mentioned Drake May overtaking Caleb Williams. Bo Nix as well, 28 of 33, 307 and 4 touchdowns. Insane here. Now, to be fair, Atlanta was missing 3 of its top 4 cornerbacks. So it was a much easier matchup than it normally would have been. But Atlanta's defense has been awful this year. So I think the big takeaway here for Denver, outside of Bo Nix, was the running backs, because Estime, as I said before, like he was tracking to be the starter, and then suddenly it's all Javonte Williams, and like estimated 6 carries, but all that came in garbage time. For the Falcons, not much to say outside of Mooney got hurt in the second quarter, so he might be out for a week. Well, he has a bye this week, but he might be out in week 13. We'll see. So, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of thoughts that he had on this. The game was actually, it felt like it was going to be close, and then it wasn't, obviously. I mentioned, Caleb Williams being the 4th best quarterback in the draft in this class so far. Bo Nix is in the 2nd best, which is crazy. Because I remember, I felt like people were saying this guy was like a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick, and he goes 12th overall. To a team that we thought was going to be bad. Or, I mean, they are a bad team generally, but he's been pretty good the last few weeks, more than pretty good. He's been very good actually the last few weeks after a really rough start. So, but the thing is, there's none of the ancillary pieces in this team I trust. You're not going to trust Sutton. You can't trust any of the receivers. You can't trust any of the running backs because you never know who it's going to be. So it's like Bo Nix is decent, and that's it, right? The rest of it's who knows? Even in DFS, it's who do I trust on this team? Nothing, right? It's unless you're playing 150 lineups or whatever, then you get a couple in here and there, but and then on the Falcons side, it's I don't know what to make of the Falcons. I thought this team was going to be good coming into this year, and then they were not, and then they've had moments, and so I don't know who to trust, who not to trust. Drake London, who I thought was awesome, and then I'm hasn't been great. And then the running backs have the running backs have been up and down. Bijan looks great, but still the stats just aren't there for where he was drafted, obviously. So obviously if you have Bijan, you're starting him, right? You're not going to sit him, but I don't know, man. I don't feel good about any of the guys on this team. If you could somehow sell Bijan in season long and get good value for him, I wonder if it's worth it, because I don't know that anyone can give you anything, but I feel like at this point he's just underachieving, and I'm not sure it's going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, he does have his bye this week. To close out the season, Atlanta has pretty favorable matchup. So the Raiders, Giants, and Redskins. All 3 teams horrible against the run.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, maybe you try to get Bijan there. So yeah, like I said, week 12 bye, but then he's going to get going here. All right, so let's move on here. Seahawks 20, Niners 17. The Niners had control of this game, and then once again they just fell apart. That so many times this year. The Arizona game, couple of, I can't get it's on my head, but yeah, they've just collapsed in the fourth quarters. They have 4th and 6, and they punted away, like in Seattle territory. Like, just go for it, Purdy's now dealing with a shoulder injury. Christian McCaffrey does not look like himself. 19 for 79 against a bad run defense. Like, it should have been better. Everyone was playing McCaffrey in DFS, like everyone, and he just had a disappointing game. And if you pivoted off of him to like Brees Hall, like those are the lineups that did the best. Whereas like McCaffrey is just so high owned. Juwan Jennings is he the best receiver on this team? Like 10 for 91, a touchdown. Like every week, this guy is just amazing. It's just really cool to see him blossom to this like great threat. For Seattle, Jackson Smith and Jigba had the best game, not Metcalf. Now, usually San Francisco does well against Metcalf. Even in the first matchup, Metcalf didn't do much. 7 for 70 is not bad, PPR, but you expect more from Metcalf. But again, like he just doesn't do much against San Francisco. So what are your thoughts on this game?
Not much to say other than to lament that I once upon a time had Juwan Jennings in my starting lineup. He actually helped me beat you back in week 3.
Yep.
But then I cut him. And
who has him?
Oh, do you have him on your roster?
I do. I picked him up. Second year in a row. You dropped CJ Stroud last year. I picked him up. You dropped Juwan Jennings this year. I picked him up.
I don't remember. I had injuries or bye weeks. I needed the roster spot, and it was like, I'm like, Ayuk's gonna come back and be fine, and whatever. And anyway, what a disaster! Or was it Debo was out when Juwan? I don't remember who it was. One of the guys was out when Juwan was going off, and I was like, they're gonna be at full strength. McCaffrey's gonna come back. He's gonna get a lot of passes. Juwan Jennings is gonna be. Obviously, I was wrong. Yeah, that's a great pickup. Well done. I'll give you that one.
Thank you.
Seattle, by the way, I don't trust this team. Other than Ken Walker, I don't trust the team at all. Like Geno Smith, he's terrible. Earlier you said he's not usually good in the rain. You said something like that, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, he tends to struggle in the rain despite being Seattle's quarterback.
I think the sentence you said is Geno Smith is not really good in the rain. You could have just stopped there. Geno Smith is not really good, period. Like that.
Fair enough. Okay, fine. He's worse in the rain.
Yeah, if you're an owner of any of the Niners players, though, like you waited for C-Mac, so obviously, but like other than Juwan Jennings, all of these guys are a disappointment. Like whether it's injuries or just the team hasn't been as good, whatever the reason is. Kind of a bummer. If you're a fan of the 49ers or owner of the fan of the these players. So obviously if they're in your lineup, you're starting them. I mean, if you're on your team, you're starting these guys, right? You're not sitting, you're not going to bench these guys. Unless you've got Brock Purdy and Matt Stafford like me. Maybe you have to play Matt Stafford, who knows?
Yeah, Bosa's injury led to Geno running wild, as Kent McNeil says. Yeah, Bosa got hurt late in the game, and that really impacted the whole game. He's absolutely right. Let's do a quick game here before we move on to the next one. So it's August 2025. We're doing fantasy drafts. Who is the first of these players drafted? Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, or Juwan Jennings?
Oh man, I still gotta think it's gonna be Deebo.
Deebo, okay.
Yeah, Ayuk could be coming off the injury, so he'll be depressed. I think there'll be a lot of people who still think Juwan Jennings is not legit. People will say, "Nah, it was fluky." They won't believe, and so I think he'll be depressed. Maybe end up being really good value.
I think one of those guys I think one of those guys will be gone. I think Deebo might be traded. The Niners might. They were trying to offload Ayuk, so I think Deebo might be gone. So and with Ayuk coming off an injury, the receiving core is going to be Ayuk, Jennings, and Pearsall. And with Ayuk coming off the injury, I think it might be Jennings. We'll see. It depends how quickly Ayuk recovers, but still,
that's a good point. I didn't think about Deebo being traded.
Yeah, Jennings has been so impressive. Anyway, so we have the big game of the week: Bills 30, Chiefs 21. This is a fun one. Not much fantasy production outside of Josh Allen here. Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel had decent games, but nothing like really stood out. But yeah, Josh Allen took matters into his own hands, like scored that touchdown on the fourth down. Like lesser coaches would have kicked the field goal there, but the Bills knew that if they gave the ball back to Mahomes down 5, Mahomes is going to score a touchdown. So they correctly called the play for Allen to run, and he scored a touchdown. So credit to the Bills for winning this game. Kareem Hunt, 14 of 60. So the Chiefs are going to be happy that Isaiah Pacheco is due back this week. He was limited in practice today. And we don't know what we're going to expect out of him in his first game back. Like, he might be limited, but it is good news that he's coming back. And they tried to force feed the ball to Xavier Worthy, which is just, just not great. He can make some big plays, but he's just such an inefficient receiver. So anyway, what are your thoughts on this one?
Just as a football fan, this was my favorite game of the week to watch. And I have been saying over and over again, Patrick Mahomes is clearly the best quarterback in the NFL. He's clearly the best. This was the first time in the last 6 years where I thought to myself, maybe Patrick Mahomes is not the best quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen, he played out of his mind in this game. And you kind of forget, I don't watch the Bills closely enough to appreciate how much of a one-man show he really is. He really, really is. And the offensive line is not great. They're kind of mediocre offensive line, and the coach, I'm not sure I really think the coach is great. This guy is really awesome. And I think I've underappreciated Josh Allen in his career up to this point to some extent. Obviously he's great, but I really loved watching that game. And so just from a football fan standpoint, it was awesome. From a fantasy standpoint, is there any, other than Josh Allen, I don't know that I feel good about a single fantasy player on any of these two teams. Travis Kelce with another goose egg. Total, what a disaster that is. If you drafted Travis Kelce, now of course you shouldn't draft tight ends before round 12 or 13 in a standard league, but whatever, that's my opinion. None of their receivers are worth rostering or starting. None of their running backs are. Maybe we'll see what happens with Pacheco if he comes back healthy, but I don't trust him coming off the injury. I'm not sure. The Bills, Shakir and PPR, I don't know. I don't trust any of those guys.
He's 7 for 70 every single week.
So I know someone like James Cook. I look at James Cook's numbers. Okay, James Cook is in typical ESPN scoring leagues. He's the 10th best running back overall in scoring this year, and he doesn't have his bye week yet. So whatever on a he's a RB2. Okay, fine. But and you actually look at the numbers. You actually look at the box scores. His he's totally on touchdown heavy. These are some of his numbers: 9 for 9 attempts, 9 for 20, 10 for 44, 12 for 32, 9 for 39, 11 for 39. It's not a lot of attempts, not a lot of carries, not a lot of catches, not a lot of yards. And so he's very touchdown heavy. That could change. We've seen that every year. We've seen that things if I own James Cook right now, obviously you feel obligated to start him, but I don't feel good about him either. I think those touchdowns could go away at any time. That's not reliable. And so, yeah, I think you mentioned Shakir and PPR. First of all, you shouldn't play PPR. That's for children. Second of all, I'm still not sure. I like Shakir as a player. He's kind of one of my sleepers this year, but I don't know. And I pour one out. I had a bunch of Rainmakers cards of Shakir as well.
I had a Rainmaker Chase Brown. That's it's in the wind right now. It sucks.
But really, it's weird to think these two teams are both so good and fun to watch, and yet I don't trust any of their fantasy options, and that includes Mahomes. I wouldn't want Mahomes right now as my quarterback. You can't. He's unstartable. And so it's really weird. Josh Allen is really the only guy that you feel really good about, that for sure is going to be reliable.
Josh Allen, currently the MVP frontrunner. He's plus 125.
He's got to be.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson, second place at plus 250. And then you have Jared Goff, number 3 at 8-1.
I think Saquon should be in the mix.
Saquon. I wonder what is. So Jalen Hurts is
Let me guess.
17-1. What's okay? Jalen Hurts is 17-1. He's fifth place. Let me just read the top five, and then you can guess what Saquon is. So Josh Allen plus 125, Lamar Jackson plus 200. Sorry, not 250. Jared Goff 8-1. Patrick Mahomes number 4 12-1, and then Jalen Hurts it's fifth place at 17-1. So what do you think Saquon Barkley is?
50. You said Jalen was 17-1 or 15-1?
17-1. Jalen Hurts.
Oh man, yeah, that's a bummer. I would have thought, Saquon would be in that range, but maybe not. Saquon's probably got to be maybe 30-1.
So he's in he's in 13th place at 65-1. However, he is the top running back. And there's the next running back is Derrick Henry at 100-1. So it just shows you that running backs just don't win this. It's all quarterbacks.
65-1 feels like it feels like good value. If I'm not a gambling type, but if I were.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it could be him. I feel like it's going to be tough to unseat Josh Allen at this point, or Josh Allen or Lamar or maybe Jared Goff. I did bet Jalen Hurts at the beginning of the year, like around 17-1, just because I felt like cheated that he didn't win in 2022. And like this is the dumbest argument of all time. It's like, oh, he didn't win because he missed 2 games. It's like, well, they lost the 2 games that he wasn't playing. So that kind of strengthens the argument, right?
Right.
It's so stupid.
I think
he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year, though.
Saquon will.
Yeah.
Now think about this: if he got tackled at the 1 yard line 11 times this year, think about where that would be, how different that would feel.
Oh my God, yeah, you're right. I mean, better variance would definitely lead that to a better chance of winning MVP. As people are like playing poker with wild cards. Jokers are wild, right?
Stop playing PPR. Stop.
Well, I mean, in fairness, like DraftKings is PPR, so you have to know of PPR. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I still feel like a child every time I engage with that.
That's fair enough. When's the last time a running back won MVP?
Peterson.
Do you know this?
Didn't Peterson win it in
2012, I think.
2012. Before that, LT won it in 2007.
Yeah. Peterson 2012. That's the last time. I mean, he is coming off the torn ACL, and he had 2,000 rushing yards, which is crazy.
A torn ACL in December.
Yeah. I was shocking. That was so shocking.
In December of 2011, he tore his ACL, and he came back and just killed the league in 2012.
Yeah, he really did. That was phenomenal. All right. We have 2 more games. Chargers 34, Bengals 27. Chargers were up 27-6, and the Bengals stormed back. I thought the Bengals were going to win this one, and yet Zach Taylor this game away. He was just so bad. Every time he reaches the 35-yard line, the opponent's 35-yard line, he just goes into the shell. He's like, oh, I have McPherson. He can hit a 50-something yard field goal, and just like misses every time. It's just so stupid. So Chase Brown continues to be PPR monster, 5 catches, 57 yards, and then to go along with his rushing. Higgins had the big game because the Chargers double-teamed Jamar Chase on every play, which is so frustrating because I had Jamar Chase over 77 or 78 and a half receiving yards, and he was stuck at 75 for the whole fourth quarter. I was just like, come on, just throw it once to him, and they just double-teamed him. So Burrow just kept going to Higgins and Chase Brown, and I can't blame him. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert he had an awesome first half. Second half, pretty bad, but first half he was amazing. Lad McConkey looks legit, and then Will Dissly is just coming out of nowhere to be the solid tight end this second half of the season. So pretty crazy. Did not have that on my bingo card, but that's what happens. And then Quentin Johnson, he's the new Chris Carter, right? Like all he does is catch touchdowns. That's the only thing he does. So, what are your thoughts on this game?
Again, just as a pure football fan, so fun to watch this game. I loved it. I think there's some like guys I like on this Charger team. Lad McConkey, I think is he's kind of a piece that I could trust down the stretch a little bit. If you're an owner, if you owned Ayuk, or you own, Garrett Wilson or Jalen Waddle. Like, you spent some draft capital on receivers that have not panned out or kind of, have busted for various reasons. Like, Ladd McConkey is the kind of guy that's like, I'm willing to roll with him a little bit. If I had him if I had him on my roster, I'd be starting him over Pearsall or Keenan Allen or MVS. I got some bums as my third receiver spot right now. So, I kind of like him. Dobbins has been great. Herbert looks good. Remember once upon a time he was going to have plantar fasciitis? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
He looks good. The Bengals have a lot of players. Chase Brown finally is looking great. Chase Brown looks great. Burrow looks good. Like, it's weird to think that the Bengals and the Chargers have significantly more fantasy options than the Chiefs and the Bills do. I mean, it feels like it's the opposite. Like, these are both good teams, but not great teams. And so, yeah, I think the best player, the best thing is Chase Brown, whom I absolutely love. I talked him up all summer. I have him in every league. By the way, I've not started him in a single league because he's my fourth or fifth running back. So what do I do in our league? By the way, in our league, I got Joe Mixon, I got Alvin Kamara, I got Jahmyr Gibbs, I got Chase Brown. So, like, I've been rolling with Mixon and Gibbs and Kamara all week. I think I've reached the point finally where Brown might surpass Kamara and worthy of that spot. Like, it's gonna, now that, but Kamara's on bye this week and Brown is on bye the same week. So,
Yeah.
In my other league, I've started him, I think, twice because of bye weeks. So, like, I've got Chase Brown. I talked him up a bunch and not really been able to use him much. So that's a bummer.
I have an idea. Now, this is going to sound crazy. Why don't you try to trade one of your running backs to Body Burner?
I should.
I feel like he might accept one of these trades. we had this feud in this league where you and Body Burner, who's been on the show a few times, he's like, you guys were like what was it? How many trades were submitted? And and then he finally he offered you like what was it, Brock Bowers for like your whole roster?
Yeah, like seven
players for Brock Bowers. That was so fun. I was dying. I was like, I thought that was hilarious. Anyway, so you said Chiefs Bills was your favorite game of the week. This was my favorite game of the week, and here's why. Because we made so much money on Monday night. We bet Texans -7. So we bet Texans -7 for 5 units. We bet Texans -13.5 for a unit. We bet Texans -20.5 for a half a unit plus 480. We got almost 5-1 at Texas -20.5, which we hit. We hit Joe Mixon over rushing yards. We hit teaser with Texans and Bengals. It was a phenomenal night. One I'll never forget. And we got to laugh at Mike McCarthy just fake punting once again, doing stupid stuff all the time. And this I brought this up yesterday. I was like rolling on the floor laughing, like literally when it's happened. So the Cowboys are down, I believe, it's 27-10 at this point. Yeah, 27-10 in the fourth quarter with like 9 minutes left. Right, they go for it on 4th and 10, which you would expect. Because if they punt it away, next time they're going to get the ball is like 5 minutes left. They're down 17. It's impossible for them to win. So, yeah, you expect them to go for it on 4th and 10, right? They go for it on 4th and 10. They complete a 20-yard pass, but then there's a penalty. And so it's like holding. So now it's 4th and 20. And they punt the ball. But it's like they just completed a 20-yard pass. So why don't they go for it? Like, they just punt the ball away. Just the end of the game. This is like beautiful stuff from Mike McCarthy we're never going to see after he's done this year. So enjoy it. Enjoy these final few weeks of McCarthy. Anyway,
he ruined Aaron Rodgers' prime, and now he is ruining the Packers, the Cowboys. But in this case, I'm excited. I love it. I'm all for it. I hope they keep him. Oh God, please may they keep Mike McCarthy. I remember when they hired Mike McCarthy, and so many people said that was a good hire. And I remember coming on this show saying, I love this. As an Eagles fan, I love this hire.
I remember you saying that. One of the most legendary rant ever was you just berating Mike McCarthy back when he was with the Packers. I wish we still had it because you went off on him for like 10 minutes and I was just dying the whole time.
He was so bad. I mean, like, and I don't understand how people thought this guy was a good coach. He made so many bad decisions regularly. Drove me crazy.
Horrible. He's the worst. And Evan said yesterday he's. I was hoping, I was like, maybe he'll take over as an interim co-coach. If he's an offensive coordinator, down the road, someone gets fired, he's gonna be interim coach. Evan's like, no, he's going to high school next year. And I was like, what, to take classes in high school? It's gonna be like yeah, Mike, can you solve this quadratic equation? And he's gonna be like, oh, I think we should fake punt here. just so stupid. This coach, Jerry Jones wanted to fire him last offseason, and he was talked out of it. So I hope that same person talks him out of it again. I don't think it's going to happen, but we can only hope. This game, CeeDee Lamb 8 for 93, which seems like it's okay. All right, that's pretty good for Cooper Rush. But Cooper Rush threw 55 times. Like, it's not going to happen very often. And by the way, what are they doing starting Rush over Trey Lance? Like, they traded a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance. He's an expiring.
Why is he not on why is he not on there?
Yeah, and it's not like they have him next year. He's an expiring contract. So like you're just gonna let him walk for the 4th rounder? Like, what's the point in trading for him? Like, just see what you have in him. And like, if he, I don't know, like, it's just so mind-numbingly dumb. Like, this stupid team. But it is funny anyway. With the Texans, we heard that Nico Collins is gonna be at full strength. This is 2 weeks ago, and then he missed the first game that he should have been back, and he played this game. He only played like 45% of the snaps. So still 4 for 54. I have to imagine he's gonna be closer to 100% this upcoming week. But I mean, Joe Mixon was awesome. Anyway, like I said, we had Mixon over rushing yards. It was a nice win. So, what's your takeaway from this game?
My takeaway is this summer when people told me Joe Mixon was done and had lost it, and I said, he still looked great to me down the stretch. I don't know. And I drafted him in every league, and he's awesome. Joe Mixon is just a freaking man. He is fantastic. One of my favorite players ever. Yes, he did beat his girlfriend in college. That's bad. I do not condone that. Okay, like, I feel like there are times where I've said positive things about a player, and then like someone on Twitter is like, "But he did this thing." I'm like, "Yeah, he's a crud human being." So yeah, yes, thank you. But from a fantasy perspective, he's awesome. And so Mixon's great. CeeDee Lamb, and like, he was the first pick in some drafts. He's a top first round. By the way, don't draft receivers toward the top of the first round. Please draft like it's 1999 and take running backs the way an adult drafts. Okay, people. CeeDee Lamb, he finally had a good game, but like, I don't know where he ranks, where he's been, but like clearly not the player you want him to be. Even with Dak, he wasn't what he ought to be, right? I mean, like, so.
Where would you draft him right now?
I feel like he's like a 3rd-round pick in my mind.
That's like where he's going on average. He went 209 in this latest best ball draft that I did.
Okay,
but he's been going like early 3rd round on average.
Or early 3rd, that's probably about right. I probably would still take him there. If I was playing in the childish game that is PPR, I would take him in the 3rd. Yeah, I would take him in the early 3rd there. Yeah, disappointing, man. If you're a Lamb owner, it's a bummer. The rest of this Cowboys team sucks. None of them are worth any value. By the way, CJ Stroud. Once upon a time, I thought he was awesome. Once upon a time, I thought he was a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I'm not so sure anymore. He looks pretty regular, pretty like not bad, but he's fine. He's fine. He's good enough to keep the offense going, but he's not great. And am I missing something? Is there something wrong with the offense? Is there an injury? Is there something I'm missing? Because he doesn't look great.
I'll say this. I think his offensive coordinator sucks. It's Bobby Slowick. He has run the ball at the highest clip on 1st and 2nd down. No, it's okay. Yeah, they have Joe Mixon. Sure. Yeah, you could defend that. But he did not change his run percentage when Mixon was out. When they had, who was it? Dario Gumbawale or Pierce was hurt at that time. Who else did they have? I can't remember.
Cam Akers?
Cam Akers. Yeah, Cam Akers. Yeah. So they were running at the highest clip in the NFL when those guys were playing too, first and second down. And there was one game against Jacksonville, I think it was like week 4, week 5, where Stroud was stuck in like 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, like every single down, every single series. And it was just so brutal to watch. And yet he still willed his team to victory. So I know the stats don't show it. And like he has not looked good in a couple games, particularly the Jets game. But then again, he didn't have Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs. And Tank Dell's not. I don't think he's 100% either. He got shot in the offseason. He had injuries too. So I think Stroud is better than the stats say he is. And with Nico Collins coming back, I think that's going to help a lot. So I think down the stretch, if Collins is 100%, I think that I think that's going to benefit him. Also, the offensive line hasn't been very good. Laramie Tunsil has downgraded a lot this year. So they need to fix that as well. So yeah, like I said,
he's been smoking too much weed apparently, I guess.
Yeah, I mean he negated the big touchdown to start the game to Collins. He was 3 yards downfield. And so yeah, I feel like there's like a lot of little things wrong with the Texans with that they like all this stuff. I feel like it's fixable. You know, like if the offensive coordinator just makes smarter play calls, if Tunsil gets better, if Collins is 100%, like the Texans could be a dangerous team in the playoffs. Still, I'm not giving up on them. But I think that I think this could set up for Stroud being a buy low guy in year 3.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. We had a question from Crooners Live. Should I be worried about Kyren Williams? I could trade him for James Conner. What do you think?
I mean, should you be worried? Yes. You shouldn't have drafted him. But anyway, that's my opinion. I wouldn't. I was way lower on Kyren, although he's been mostly good for the year. So like he's for guys who drafted him, he's paid off, right? Yeah, I don't know that I would trade him for Connor. I think based on Connor's playoff schedule, I would consider it, but I don't know that I would. I don't think I'm down on Kyren that much at this point.
They've been going pretty close in best ball. Kyren Williams has been going around 111. James Conner has been going mid-second round. So yeah, I think I'd rather have Kyren. His production has been down the past few weeks. He's had some tough matchups. Patriots not so much, but still, like it feels like the receivers are taking away all the production. But that could swing the other way, where like the offense is better, so he's going to have more goal line opportunities. So he could have a couple of weeks where he just goes off, and the playoff schedule isn't that bad for Kyren Williams either. So first round playoffs is tough against the Niners, but then after that he gets the Jets, who are awful against the run, and then he gets Arizona, which is not good against the run either. So it feels like Kyren Williams could bounce back. He could be buy low. I don't think I trade him for James Conner. Although I do love James Conner though.
Yeah. I mean, Kyron's the 8th best running back. Am I seeing that right? In standard typical leagues. And he's had a bye week already. And so yeah, I guess he was a little better than I even thought. For some reason, I didn't realize he was that high. I thought he was more like 12th. And then James Conner is 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, the 14th best. So yeah, I guess I think I still go Kyren there, but it's close.
Yeah, it's very close. I'd go Kyren. All right, I guess that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. This is the link in the description for the merch store. Thank you to John Sanders for the 230 super chat. Really appreciate it, John. Today and yesterday. Thank you so much, John. All right, Kenny, any final thoughts? Anything to plug at all?
Nothing to plug, but I do have a final thought. I just decided I was going to make a trade offer to Mr. Walter in our league. Well, have we ever made a trade? We've been playing fantasy football together for 26 years.
I don't think so. I don't think we've ever made a trade. I'm surprised our trade deadline hasn't passed.
No, it's next week. It's really late.
Yeah, it's very late. Yeah.
All right. So here's the offer. Ready?
Okay.
Alvin Kamara, Dallas Goedert, and Keenan Allen for Justin Jefferson and Hunter Henry.
And no thanks.
Come on, Walt. Come on, man. We got to end this streak of no trades.
Kamara has his bye week this week. What do I need wins to make the playoffs. And I can't afford to give up Justin Jefferson this week.
All right, fine. All right, I'm gonna make another offer. I'm gonna keep making offers until I go to bed tonight. You're gonna
Make
get like
offers.
5 offers.
Make offers to Dave Wolf. That's what we should do.
He
Just
doesn't like
annoy.
any of my. He don't like any of my offers.
Yeah, he's up to 88 followers, by the way. He needs 12 more. Give Dave Wolf 88 at Twitter on Twitter. Give him a follow because if he gets to 100, he's gonna have to start posting his political thoughts, which is kind of you'll appreciate them. Um, if he gets to 100, which 12 away is very feasible. Anyway, you have thecapIsFake.com. You didn't want to plug that?
Oh yeah, it's boring. I forgot. I have a website, thecapIsFake.com. If you believe the salary cap is real, you're wrong. Check it out, thecapIsFake.com.
Yep. So check out thecapIsFake.com. Check us out tomorrow. We're going to be back after the Thursday night game, the Browns Steelers showdown there. We're going to be live with Andy Isco, the great Andy Isco. Always curious to hear his thoughts. He's been a professional bettor for decades. So we're that. And then Saturday, going to be back presumably with Tom. Hopefully he doesn't have internet connections. It was so frustrating trying to talk to him like ahead of the show. Like it was like a 10-second delay, and so we kept interrupting each other. We're like, oh, this is not going to work. This is like, and like sometimes you didn't hear what I was saying, so we just nixed it. But yeah, hopefully he'll be on. And then actually, I should say full. A full week next week. I don't know if our guests will be available. I guess I should have asked you if you're going to be available next Wednesday, given that's right before Thanksgiving. But Andy said he'll be available Thanksgiving night, so we'll actually be doing a show Thanksgiving night too. So yeah,
no rest for the Walter football team.
No, not at all, not at all. All right, guys. Once again, thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow. And have a good night.
You the man, Walt.